Let's officially begin today. Welcome all. It is such a pleasure to see all of your faces today. I'm Denise Mays, the Director of Enrollment for Strozzi Institute, and it's my pleasure to be here today for Community Dojo, June 2023. Later on, I'm going to share my contact information, some free opportunities, and ways to connect and practice, along with details of upcoming somatic coursework here at Strozzi Institute. It's my pleasure today to introduce our topic, which is somatic opening, and also my deep pleasure to introduce our somatic teacher from the Strozzi Institute, Staci K. Haines. Greetings, Staci.
Denise, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome all. On Sunday, we just finished the somatic trauma and resilience in person. It's a 4-day, and I see some lovely faces of folks that were there. So hi. I hope you got rest yesterday. I was trying to. It was a great 4 days. Welcome everyone. Again, good morning, good noon, good evening, depending on your time zone. I am sitting in Oakland, California in the US, and this is Ohlone Lands. And I'm just very happy to come together and practice together today. So our theme, and thank you so many of you for having your faces on the screen. For me, I love keeping on gallery view so I can look at you all. So nice to see you. Somatic opening. We're going to talk about somatic opening today, which in some ways, as you all know in this methodology, somatic awareness, somatic practices, somatic opening, right, all happening within a social context, all held in that wider circle of land and spirit, or the mystery. These are all core components of how embodied transformation happens. So we're just going to be honing in on somatic opening for today. Okay, cool. Let's, however, go ahead and practice first. I'm going to do something a little bit different. Many of you are probably familiar with our centering practice, but I'm going to do something that brings our attention a little bit more to somatic opening. So I'm going to invite you all to seated, laying down, or standing. Probably seated or laying down is easier than standing. To go ahead and bring your attention into yourself, almost like we're heading into meditation. We're just going to head into somatic awareness. So if you want to, you can take your eyes away from the screen. You can close your eyes if you'd like. And just bring your attention to senses and feeling. Yeah. So when we're learning to get to know our sensations, you can feel for temperatures, where you're warmer, where you're cooler. And usually we have multiple different temperatures happening at once inside of our bodies, our somas. And then you can also sense and feel for places that you feel more relaxed, places where you feel more taut or tense, and places where you might feel even a numbness, or you can't access certain parts of your body, which is fine. That's just information for us. And the last thing as we sense and feel is notice for movement. And that's everything from your last meal, digesting, to places where you might feel trembling or streaming, to really feeling your heartbeat or your lungs expand and let go with the breath. So I'm going to ask you to bring your attention to your face and to your jaws. Yeah, so you can just notice what's happening in the sensations in my face, your cheeks, your forehead, your lips, and then include these big hinges of our jaws. And you could even bring that attention all the way around the back of your head, particularly the back of your jaws along the occiput or the base of your skull. And just notice sensation, feeling, what's happening across your jaws and your face. And then very gently, maybe like 5%, 6%, just add more tension to your jaws and your face. Just squeezing the muscles a little bit. Can gently push your teeth together. Right, so we're contracting a little bit, adding more tension, just for like 3, 2, 1, and then soften again. Letting there be space between the teeth. And then letting the muscles throughout your face just soften. Maybe allow a little bit more space, a little bit more movement. And then relax your tongue also inside your mouth. All right, let's drop our attention further down in the body, like you could follow your breath down your spine. And bring your attention into your upper back and your chest, like the entire area of your rib cage. And just find that through sensations, find that maybe through your breath. Our rib cage is amazing. These are flexible bones. All of our bones are flexible, but these are flexible bones, all this connective tissue, and they expand and contract all day long as we breathe. Right? Our ribs are protecting our heart, our lungs. So keeping that jaw a bit relaxed, sensing and feeling your ribs, maybe inside of your rib cage. And then we're going to play around with two things in the rib area, the chest and upper back. Oh, excuse me. First, we're going to contract again. And again, not a lot, maybe 4%, 6%. Just kind of squeeze down on that entire rib cage. So we're just adding a bit more tension, front, back, and sides. Sensing, feeling that, tensing, that contracting, condensing that area of our bodies more. And then 3, 2, 1, soften. Maybe letting there be a bigger breath. Softening, allowing more space, allowing more movement. And see if you can take a little bit deeper breath, even into your back, even into your sides. Noticing what it's like for you to allow more movement and space, slight opening in the chest. And then let's try one more thing in this chest cavity. Going to invite you to take a big, big, big breath, right? As big as breath as you can. And then we're going to hold that breath, but on the expanse. So pulling air in, big, 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 big breath as big as you can. And then hold that breath. We're like stretching as we hold. Hold that breath wide, expanded. Another couple of seconds. And then let it go. Let the exhale happen. And again, just noticing more movement, more space. Or maybe your chest was like, oh, I didn't like that, right? Whatever's there, just notice what's there. All right, we're going to try one more thing as we're kind of arriving today. Going to invite you to take 3 very full breaths, boom, right into your hips. So first, let's just find your hips as you're seated. Maybe just find the weight in your hips. Maybe allow a little bit more weight to rest into your hips. And sense them, right, from the inside out, temperatures. Places where there's more movement. And then notice where there's more relaxation or more tension. But just bring yourself down into your hips. And it can be helpful to keep letting that jaw relax. The jaw is the top of the spine and the hips are the bottom of the spine. And they tend to contract together. So you soften your jaws. That can help you find and soften your hips. And I'm going to ask you now, or invite you to just take 3 big, deep breaths right into your hips. So like a big breath in, right into the hips, and then let that breath out. And then maybe there's a gentle breath in between, but when you're ready, again, big breath in. Let that breath out. And then one more time, big breath into the hips. And then let that breath out. And then just let your attention linger in your hips again, noticing what's happening now. Relaxed jaw, a little bit more movement and awakeness in the chest. And then hips. Since we're in there, you could also notice, include your legs. Notice where your feet are making contact with your chair, with the floor. And perhaps there's a little bit more aliveness running in your body with these kind of simple practices. And if there is, just notice if that's comfortable for you. It's like, oh, right, more aliveness. Or if there's a little bit of discomfort, like, right, I'm not so sure about that, or it's outside of my norm of sensation or aliveness running through my body. And whatever's there, whether it's comfort or discomfort, just make space for it. Right? So we're not trying to tap it back down or get back into our habit zone, but just allowing more aliveness. And just very gently take a moment and let yourself from the seated position center in length, filling out your full length bottom and top, balancing out bottom and top. And then take a nice breath and go ahead and center in width, widening out left side, right side. And coming into more connection with yourself and more awareness and connection with who's on the call, what's happening in your space right now. Maybe the plants or trees or grasses or weeds around your apartment or house. And then a gentle centering in depth. Back body, inside of you, and front body balancing back and front. And then remind yourself, center in your declaration or your longings. Speaking that to yourself and then letting that also shape you from the inside out. All right. Thanks for messing around with me a little bit this morning in our somas. That was our guide into somatic opening. Okay. So what is somatic opening? Somatic opening is the process of taking our embodied habits, right? We call them conditioned tendencies. We call them survival strategies when we're working with trauma. But taking our embodied habits and taking them from a fixed, more adhered, more habitual state into a softening and an opening and allowing more movement, more aliveness, a little change in the embodied habits, right? And that, of course, affects the neuronal pathways in our brains. It affects our brains. It affects our entire nervous system. But it's really a changing and an opening and a shifting of what's held in the tissues. And that might be our connective tissues. Like if you kind of feel the space between your rib bones, Those are all connective tissues, right? Part of how our chests contract, harden, callus, condense is those connective tissues actually squeeze and hold and then lose their elasticity. Yeah. But somatic opening is changing and working with the habits in the tissues and in the nervous system, softening and opening those so more aliveness, more ease, more movement, more spaciousness can literally live in our somas and in ourselves, right? All sounds like a good idea until we get to feel the discomfort of that. It's so funny, it's like, I really see our psychobiologies, our somas. It's like we're really built for change. We're built for adaptation, right? We're built for growing, right? And at the same time, we're built for homeostasis and we're built for habit. It's one of the core contradictions, I think, really, of how our psychobiologies work, how our selves work, is we're built to adapt and we're built to stabilize. And that is kind of the dance that we're in when we're growing or when we're working with embodied transformation. Yeah. Somatic opening is literally helping ourselves, our habits, our tissues unadhere, get out of habit, shift into imbalance, really, right? Habit is trying to come into homeostasis and balance. Somatic opening is throwing us into imbalance so that we can actually heal and change and come into more and more alignment with our longings, right? Our commitments, right? The good and bad news about our declarations is they are beyond who we are right now. That's awesome, right? That's cool. We love that. And to move beyond where we are right now, our embodied self, to move beyond that, is we have to throw ourselves or invite ourselves or gently move ourselves into a state of unknown, into a state of imbalance or unfamiliar. And mostly what can happen inside of our beings is when we step into the unknown and unfamiliar, that desire to recohere into the familiar picks up, right? That's often the discomfort we feel in growth. It's like, hey, I don't know who that is. I don't know what's going to happen, right? I don't know if I like this, right? All that good stuff, okay? Part of why in somatics we really start with what's your vision, what's your longing, what do you want, who do you want to become, is we want to develop a compelling enough vision, a compelling enough for the sake of what, so that when we hit the stages of discomfort during somatic opening, there's a big enough reason to keep going through the discomfort to find the new homeostasis, right? This is kind of us over and over again. In some ways, it's exactly what our heartbeat does. Our heartbeat squeezes and then opens, squeezes, opens, right? Actually, all of our organs do that. All of our organs pulse, yeah? So we pulse too. It's just our identities don't really like it that much. Hey, maybe I'm the only one, but right, this is what we're doing in somatic opening, is we're inviting ourselves into the unknown towards something that we long for, that's worth changing toward, right? Like most of us want to get better at loving and being loved. And boy, that piece of like really wanting to love and be loved, and then realizing, wow, there's a lot I have to shift in me to actually let in the love that I'm already surrounded by, right? Many of us who are on that edge of allowing ourselves to be loved more, the kind of tissue opening that needs to happen through the chest to let love in, or the kind of letting it settle into our lower bodies and letting more aliveness move through our lower bodies, right? Love is destabilizing. Love is an invitation into more surrender, right? Love is also very deeply settling, but it's very this alive process between settling and opening. Yeah. All right. I think we all get the point here. But somatic opening is this alive and dynamic process. Cool. All right. I want to talk about the ways we work with somatic opening in somatics. But before I do that, I just want to pause for a moment. And does anyone have any like comments or questions? You can either drop them in the chat or you can use the raise hand function, which is under reactions, and just raise your hand. And that actually brings you to the front of my screen. So questions, comments, other things you want to add to this exploration around somatic opening. Awesome, Chris, nice to see you. What you got?
My question I have is, this was one of my own experiences with somatic opening, but I then feared what happens when this happens with a client. So I was doing like self points in my chest with my somatic therapist and between the ribs. And when I touched into a particular point, what happened was like panic, overwhelm, just this feeling of like aloneness, crying, and it was too much, which I have a great therapist, so she was like, okay, we're gonna we're gonna dial this back, and then we did some like weight on my chest. But when you're doing somatic opening with people, what my experience was is like, oh, we don't always know what we're going to find in there. Like I really had no idea that that would happen. And so I'm curious about I don't know if that's containment, like making a bigger container, but yeah, I'm curious if you have thoughts on when those kinds of things happen where it's so big.
Nice to see you again.
It was great to see you.
Yes, I have many thoughts. Thanks for bringing this up. Before you all remember the arc, right, of transformation, somatic opening is not the first thing. We do a whole bunch of work before we're purposely, as coaches and therapists, evoking or inviting somatic opening. So we develop a really strong declaration. We build a capacity for somatic awareness and like why the soma matters anyway. We build resilience, right? We start to work with conditioned tendencies and particularly building in new practices. Like before I head into somatic opening, I want to make sure my client knows how to center, either row or two-step, knows how to do extension, right? There's a whole, like knows a basic decline practice, like some level of boundary practices, knows a request. Like we build all those practices before we dive into somatic opening so that we're building other somatic skills and competencies that in many ways the contractions have been taken care of, right? Like one way I think about our contractions are trying to have boundaries for us when we didn't learn how to, or we're not having effective boundaries outside of our bodies, right? When we start having more and more effective boundaries outside of our bodies, our tissues start to let go because the need is being taken care of in a different way, right? When I start to know how to make centered requests and centered offers, it sounds so simple, but our somas go, oh, I'm starting to be able to navigate the world in a more effective way, to more effectively take care of safety, belonging, and dignity for myself and others because I have new embodied skills. So as coaches, please skills build. Please get into practices before we're diving into somatic opening. That's building literally a container for the somatic openings. So sorry you're on the spot and pinned for so long, but so when we get to a place, we should know what is inside of our contractions is history, unfelt emotions, and unprocessed stories. That's what's in our contractions, right? What's in our contractions are belief systems, worldviews, and habits handed to us from our families and our social conditions. That's what's living in our tissues. It's really no mystery. It's beautifully mysterious, but it's no mystery what's in our tissues. Yeah. So we know when we start to do somatic opening, we are going to be playing around with unintegrated experiences, emotions that were too overwhelming at the time to feel, and belief systems, including beliefs about our own identities, that when we start to open, we're starting to challenge, not in a bad way, like invite into more, right? Safety, belonging, and dignity. That's what's there, right? So with all of that in our little somatic tool belt, we as somatic coaches want to be able to hang with emotions. It's like, wow, you're feeling afraid. It's okay to be afraid. I can be with you in being afraid. It's like, wow, there's grief. I can be with you in grieving. And that's the capacities we want to have so we can stay centered and grounded while emotional processing is happening with our clients. And if it becomes too overwhelming, you said it beautifully already, is we want to be able to recontract and recontain, or like, whoops, let's dial this down, right? And there's different tools to do that. I won't go on and on about this, but we can just say to ourselves or our clients, like, cool, well, that is a lot. What is it like to just contract your chest a little bit? Because that's what we were working on, is your chest. Let's stop the touch and let's just recontract gently, not 100%. And then take a couple of breaths into your belly, right? Or squeeze the sides of ourselves. This is a great way to recontain. It's just squeeze the sides, right? Those are simple ways to recontain. Or let's take your attention off your body and let's look at something in the room that you like the color of your walls or a plant. Yeah. So those are all ways to do it. In the big picture, as much as possible, see each other in person. I know we're not doing that, and I can't tell you what a difference it makes to see each other in person as much as we can, because so many different moves are possible, including, if we're together, I can touch you, right? Or you can sit up and I can sit next to you on the table and put my arm around you. There's just all these things we can do in person that we can't do on Zoom. So no bad with Zoom, but I don't want it to become our own new habit that we don't see each other in person. So, all right. Thank you so much for asking. Anything you want to add?
No, that was super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
You too.
Yeah. All right, given our time, I want to dive in on kind of the 3 ways that we work with somatic opening with ourselves, with each other, and even in groups. The first one is we work with somatic opening through conversation, through somatic conversation, and we'll demo a little bit of that. The second way we work with somatic opening is through touch, right? So somatic body work, guiding self-touch, and just basically it's through the tissues, through the actual tissues, right? That body up learning where the cognitive mind or the neocortex might be the last to know. So through touch. The third way that we invite somatic opening is through bringing a lot of aliveness through the soma. So those of you who've taken programs, one way that we do that is spirited commitment to dignity, which is the pads, right? Working with pads. There's lots of other ways we can bring increased aliveness through the body. Dancing is one of them, right? But we're basically turning up the volume of aliveness that's moving through the body. That also creates somatic awareness, right? Just like in a stream, if there's a lot of debris and you let a lot of water through, it can clear out a bunch of the debris. Okay, so these are the 3 ways we really work with somatic opening. Cool. I'm glad that Christine is getting a lot of love in the chat. I hope you're reading that. Great. All right, so somatic awareness and conversation as a way to bring somatic opening. Who would be willing to do a very brief somatic conversation with me that's pointed towards somatic opening? This is a very mini demo. If you're willing, if you can just use that raise hand function, then I can see you at the top of my screen. Awesome. Thank you all. I don't know if I'm going to say your name right, but Estella? It's probably wrong, but what's your name?
Hi, Estelle.
Estelle, perfect. I saw your hand first. Hi.
Hello, nice to meet you. Big fan, by the way. Your book is like totally changing me. So this is really awesome to be able to interact with you and connect. So
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for saying that. I'm glad to hear that. Where are you right now?
right now I'm in Montreal, Canada. And usually I'm located in Los Angeles. I'm doing my PhD in clinical psychology there, but I'm spending the summer in Montreal. That's my hometown. So visiting family and working
Yeah.
for.
Oh, welcome home.
Thanks.
Awesome. This is fun. So you okay if I ask you a few questions?
Yes.
Excellent. So as you're in your own growth and change process, are there places you notice kind of like in your soma that you notice repeat habits or the typical ways you kind of reorganize yourself back into what feels stable or normal?
Yeah, I tend to very much sort of lean. I think that's connected to like over accountability. And I just started with a somatic therapist actually. And yeah, that's something that was feedback in terms of like efforting a lot, but also feeling like I want to change that. Like I feel like I effort a lot. And she was like, you gesture like I'm doing that. And I sort of tend to lean. And I was like, oh, I can connect that to some patterns for sure of over accountability.
Okay. Awesome. So this kind of like forward, like I'm in,
Yep.
like I'll pick that up, I'll do that, I'll be accountable, maybe if it's not even mine to be accountable for.
Yeah, very much like, oh, quick to think that something's my fault. Um, when, yeah, now I'm learning to be a little more centered, to see responsibility as shared, but I have that reflex of if something is going wrong or someone's feeling bad, I immediately sort of am like, oh my God, what did I do? Or how can I fix this?
Okay. And we don't have to go deep into it, but do you notice it for you, is that connected to gender, race, class, over efforting?
For sure. Yeah, intersecting identities as a Black woman for sure. First gen, child of an immigrant. I think that plays into it. And I'm in a helping profession. I work as a, psychologist, a trainee, but, I do therapy. And so that, it's part of a lot of my daily work is to hold space and listen and sort of care, and finding balance in that too has been interesting professionally, but it's part of sort of my day to day.
It's amazing how sometimes like what we pursue exactly fits our superpower,
For sure.
but then totally has us keep practicing something that doesn't exactly serve us.
I really think a lot about like two sides of the same coin. I think people's like biggest strength can play as the biggest weakness, and it's context dependent, and it's incredible, but for sure.
I know, it's amazing. It's like our shapes make so many decisions that we think are like such unique decisions. And
For sure.
all good. A lot of forgiveness. Well, in kind of experimenting here, do you have a sense, would you rather experiment with forward and get to know that more, or would you rather experiment a little bit with back and get to know that?
I'd like to try the back. I've touched on it very briefly in a somatic session. I was like, oh, I don't like it. Not in a very troubling way, but I'd love to get deeper into what that's about.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay, good. Let's just explore for a few minutes. So for you, go ahead and just place your attention and place your body so that you're more back. Just as you do that, we're just gonna pay attention to sensation, any emotions that come into the mix and any kind of automatic internal narratives that show up. And I'm aware you don't have a lot of support at your back. Is that okay? Is that comfortable enough for you?
I actually have a chair there. I will carry you
Great.
over here. That might be a little better. Here we go. Okay.
Excellent. So same idea, just resting into your own back. And even with wherever your hands are on your lap, let it be that your hands are close enough to your hips that your shoulder blades can kind of rest down your back. And let's just take a minute and let your attention come into your upper back. Maybe notice where your back is even resting onto the back of the chair. And then notice what's happening in the back of your arms. Even where the underside of your arms are resting onto your lap. And then behind you is this great plant. Maybe you can just feel for that plant. And just very gently open to the space behind you. And as we're experimenting with back, what are you noticing? What are you noticing in you? What's happening?
That fear.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm falling.
Mm-hmm.
And that there's like no one to catch me, and I have to, like, I have an impulse to like grab forward and like sort of fall forward. That's the main thing.
Okay, so fear. And then this sensation like you're falling backward and there's no one there to catch you. So you need to kind of move forward and catch yourself. Right. Okay. Okay. And if you translate that a little bit into sensation, where do you feel those sensations of falling or fear?
Upper back. It wants to tense up and forward. In my hands, I'm very much aware of them trying to like claw.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what do you notice in your lower back or your upper hips?
I feel like lower body too is wanting to tense.
Mm-hmm.
The buttocks area, the hamstrings, all sort of the back of my legs, sort of trying to
come forward. Awesome. Okay. So I really want to acknowledge like fear of falling is innate. We're born with that. So this is letting us know how deep this is. Yeah. So let me know if this works for you, but I'm wondering if at least with one hand or maybe even both hands, we can kind of imagine that even as we're exploring the back, you could hold on to something that's securing you forward. And that could be someone's hand, it could be my hand, it could be a rope, it can be whatever your body wants to hold on to. Do you have a sense of what that might be?
imagining like a metal ramp. Yeah.
Okay. And can you hold on to that metal ramp even as we explore the back?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And is the metal cool or warm?
It's like lukewarm.
Lukewarm. Okay. And do you feel like you have a secure enough grip in your somatic imagination?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then what changes in your sensations as you now have that ramp?
I like immediately feel more centered, like there's a little bit of movement forward, but not in a way that's like I need to prevent a fall, in like a relaxed, okay, like now we're more stable, and just centered.
Okay, great. Okay, and the sensations down your back, do you feel more relaxation or movement?
Yeah, more relaxation, a little bit more ease with the shoulder blades being down, and the sort of tension in the legs is also pretty much gone.
Okay, awesome. And then how's the fear?
Better. I feel it in my voice too. Like I feel like I'm projecting more calmly.
Okay. So you open to trying one more thing here? Okay, so as you know, in your somatic imagination and even with your hands, keep holding on to that ramp, like lukewarm. And then just one more time, what is it like to feel the support of the chair at your back? Maybe even rest into that like 3% more.
The word that came to me was interdependent.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
That was like,
Great. And then I'm wondering if it's possible to expand into or sense the space at your back. Just a little bit, maybe a couple, y'all do meters, right?
yeah.
Uh-huh. I know those snowshoes up there for a reason.
Hopefully no snow this summer.
Do you like snowshoeing?
They're not mine. No, I'm subletting, so
Okay. Someone else's snowshoes.
I have a snowshoer here, but not me.
Okay, great. Just the plants then.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then still holding on to that metal ramp. As you rest more onto the chair and feel into the back space, is there any place where you feel kind of new space or movement or?
Yeah, it feels just wider. It also feels like I have like a pressure dot on the left, and that feels like it is more sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
Like more noticeable, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Any place that you feel kind of movement or streaming or trembling, anything like that?
No.
Right. Okay. All right, last thing, can we ask your back and that back space a question and just let the back answer? All right, what is it that that whole your back and that back space, what is it that it wants you to know?
I'm gonna be okay.
How's that to hear?
I'm tearing up. I think it's there's some like reassurance for sure. And I think some grief, some like sadness at not having felt that. I think a lot of my life, probably.
Yeah. Mm. In whatever way makes sense to you, can you just kind of thank your back and the back space for that? How's it going in there?
Good, good. Feel like things move through. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
I feel like this is crazy. The like tension I was feeling is gone, like on the left side. The wisdom of the body. It's wild.
Isn't it wild?
Completely wild.
Yeah, it's wild.
Um,
That metal ramp,
mhm,
feel it still?
mhm,
Okay, I'm wondering if it's willing to be there anytime that you need it.
mm. Yeah, I think that would be helpful for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay. um, an impulse to grab something, to not fall back into nothingness, is a good impulse, right? And so we want to let you have that
Mm.
whenever you
Mhm.
need it.
Mhm.
Like, oh no, I need to grab onto something as I rest back, right? Yeah. And then I'm gonna say something to your beautiful over efforting habit. Please don't over effort at getting into your back.
Mm. Mm.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
How are you doing?
Good, good. No, this is, I feel like very honored to like have had this experience. Honestly, this is incredible. Thank you. That was wow. And I have a session with my therapist, a somatic therapist today later. So this is perfectly aligned with my day.
Good timing.
Oh, this is awesome. Thank you.
You're really welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, thanks for bringing yourself. Yeah. And is there anything you need to hear, want to say before we transition?
No, just thank you from my whole soma, if I may. If I may, yeah. My body thanks you too. So
You're
thank
really
you.
welcome. You're welcome. Nice to meet you.
Likewise, likewise.
Yeah. All right. See you again. All right, friends. There's a lot of love in the chat. Please put your love in the chat for Estelle. That was, yeah, that was awesome. Estelle, is it okay if I say a couple of things about what we just did?
Yes, absolutely, please.
Okay, great, thank you. So that's using conversation, right, for somatic opening. And what I want to remind us all of is change in the self happens in the tissues and the nervous system. It doesn't happen at the level of insight. Okay, change in the self happens through the soma. Insights are awesome, but it's a beautiful frosting on the cake, right? And sometimes that frosting takes, and sometimes the cake's warm and it slides right off. But right, sustained change happens through the soma. So Estelle, obviously you have a lot of somatic awareness. But even just starting with that question for ourselves or with our clients is like, what is that habit I find myself in over and over again? Right? Conditioned tendencies, survival strategies, right, is what we call them. But what's that habit I find myself returning to over and over again? Maybe it's literally that habit of pushing my tongue into the top of my mouth. Maybe it's squeezing and lifting myself out of my hips and off the ground. Maybe it's like, I don't like what's happening. I don't know what to do with what's happening. And so I'm going to kind of pop out, right? There's different things we do. It's awesome. They're smart, useful, right? All those words. But then we want to experiment with either going into it deeper, which would have been Estelle and I exploring forward, or we want to explore the opposite of it. Okay, well, what is it like to then rest back and slow the whole thing down? But that's basically this fundamental way we can work with somatic opening through conversation, right? But through the soma, right? I, as a coach or therapist, I'm somatized to my client's soma. If that makes sense, right? I'm sensing and feeling myself. I'm keeping a ground, right? Because I'm asking someone to go off balance. I'm asking someone to step into something that isn't their homeostasis. So I, for the period of time, I'm going to offer that balance, right? Our somas talk to each other. So I'm offering that center so that my client can explore a habit by coming out of that habit or by going deeper into that habit. But either way, we're inviting change. So I want to offer a somatic reference point or balance or ballast. The other thing that's so important that I feel like really came out of the wisdom of Estelle is back was super scary, right? Right, imbalance to the point of I'm going to fall and no one's there to catch me. That's almost like too much for our somas. Any of us would be like, and contract and try to refine balance. So what that tells us somatically, well, that's a little bit too much. Let's add some more security. And her soma already had the impulse of I want to grab something going forward. I'm like, cool, let's do it. Right? We don't really want to send ourselves and each other into so much that we're gripping. Right? A little fear is okay. We all probably have a lot of fear, but a little fear, processing a little fear at a time is great. So that just adding that, being able to hold on to something forward while we explored the back gave the soma enough safety to keep exploring the back, right? So I don't know if you all saw, but at some point there was that really big breath. That's part of somatic opening. I feel lighter. That's part of somatic opening. That pain is gone. That's part of somatic opening, right? We know we're rewiring and we're creating new options at the level of the tissues and the level of the self. Right. So when I invited what might the backside want to say, right? That's the whole thing. That's the self, that's the emotions, that's the tissue. And then that's the message from the back. And then some of the emotional release that gets to go along with that, right? All right. Somatic opening through conversation, right? Somatic opening happens through touch. We love somatic body work, right? Directly through the tissues to the self, right? Or self-touch if you're over Zoom. And then somatic opening through adding more aliveness through the body while the person is feeling their body. Right, last thing I'm going to say, because I was supposed to hand it to Denise 1 minute ago. Last thing I'm going to say, somatic opening, catharsis, two different things. Not the same thing. Catharsis is often happening in a disembodied state. We don't want that. When there are profound or deep emotions, it's awesome. Just keep asking yourself or your client, can you feel your back? Can you sense the warmth in your lower body? What sensation is happening in your face right now? We want to stay in the soma and sensation when large emotions are moving through, or there can be a real default to big emotion, and I'm going to push this emotion out through catharsis while I'm not feeling myself. That doesn't create change in the soma, right? We want to build our somatic capacity to allow and feel emotion and sensation at the same time. All right, we could go a whole nother hour, obviously. Denise, over to you, and I'll do a quick close. Sorry, take your time.
Wonderful. Can everybody, I'm sorry, I just lost my screen. I apologize. Thank you. Thank you, Staci. Thank you for handing it over to me. I would like to do a really quick wrap up with all of you today and really just give some information so it's helpful. I'm going to be putting some things in the chat as I talk. If you would like to contact me as the enrollment director, here's my contact information. It's also a way for you to schedule time with me if you would like to. I love connecting with everyone and would welcome your questions and consider me a partner in your journey with us. Here is where all of our coursework lives. It's our course calendar. On it, you will find information about coursework and about announced courses that may not yet be open for enrollment, so you can plan, all you big planners out there. Next, I wanted to share a weekly practice that we have. It's an opportunity to step into a weekly practice with Strozzi teachers. This is for individuals that have finished or completed online coursework or in-person coursework, which is many of us in the community. Welcome you to take a look at that and see if that might be something that would support you in your practice and also your declaration. Also wanted to share that all pathways at Strozzi start with our foundational work, which is embodied transformation, and really explores and steps into our somatic arc of transformation that Staci shared with us today about how we move through somatic awareness, somatic practices, somatic opening, all within social context with landscape and spirit. And this is where we start, is embodied transformation. All pathways go from there, whether it's coaching, whether it's advanced work on self, or if we want to go into leadership. Lots of beautiful ways and lots of rich ways to really step in. And so embodied transformation is the pathway to start that. So I'm putting in the chat here some of our upcoming times through the fall, where you can step into embodied transformation with us here in the United States or with us also in Europe. So please take a look and see if that might be anything that would align for you. Also, we have advanced coursework. You'll find it also on that course calendar. Briefly, I wanted to share with you that we have somatic bodywork, something that Staci had mentioned earlier about how to really have more of a deepening experience with all of this. And this is somatic bodywork level 2 with Richard Strozzi Heckler. One of our founders is happening in July. Just as a reminder that this is an advanced course, so there are some prerequisites that are required for that course. And then really would love to share with you some really exciting news about our coaching programs. So somatic coaching certification is really what we're known for. And so we have a US cohort starting in October. And we are so excited to announce that we are going to be offering somatic coaching certification in Europe also in November. This will be offered in Rome, Italy. So we're so very excited about that. There's lots of information on our website about that. Please take a look. Lastly, another opportunity for free practice is our Soma community, which is our online private network. So excited to always step into community there. And I've been pasting a lot of stuff. I've been talking quite a bit. Again, wanted to put my contact information so that you can contact me if you have any questions. Again, I'm here to support you and consider me a partner in our pathway. So with that, I would like to please send it back to Staci to close out our day today. Staci?
Thanks, Denise, and thanks for doing the super speed version of that because I ate your time. Sorry about that. All right, lovely people, let's just take a minute and notice ourselves again. Sensing, feeling. And just that, again, the gentle reminder, right, to keep inviting ourselves toward more aliveness, toward more spaciousness. And then like when things get uncomfortable, that we can just make more space and get curious about it. Somatic opening in some ways, hopefully we get to do it for the rest of our lives, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for your collective attention today. Really beautiful. Estelle, thank you again very much for coming on as you did.